Over half of the world's population now lives in cities. And most of the cities they live in are small to middle-sized cities of less than 5 million people. Then we know, or we can expect, for example, that by 2020, the predictions are that Lagos in Nigeria is going to be the largest city in the world. That city at the moment is crumbling under the weight of its own infrastructure, is unable to provide its inhabitants with adequate water, sanitation, and other essential urban services. Think of that problem compounded by 5 or 6 or 7 times. It's absolutely staggering. The resources, the financial commitments, the institutional capabilities are not in place to respond to that type of challenge, especially of that magnitude. There's a number of challenges that must be addressed in the future if half the world's population are going to live in cities. The idea that these cities will require energy in order to be productive. The same with the food chain. Will we be able to produce enough food and distribute enough food? Many of the urban centers that we talk about are in coastal areas, are prone to climatic variability. The slums that exist within them are situated in precarious areas, mudslides. So the ability of a city to respond to those challenges, I think, is going to be significant as these problems become worse. Part of the problem is that there's no consistent understanding, or there's no comprehensive understanding or awareness of what the problems are and how to respond to them. There needs to be something at a more strategic level, because without that, what we're going to have is architects doing their thing, engineers doing their thing, economists doing their thing. In reality, what history has shown us is none of these disciplines, in and of themselves, have the solution. The guidelines are about changing the way we think about urban areas. That's it. It's not a prescription, it's not a format, it's not a template where if we follow this, then that can be our expected outcome. They're mainly geared towards policymakers, administrators, city managers, planners, architects that have a key role in providing city functions. Because if they can change their minds about the limited role they have in making cities successful and broadening their awareness of what the contributing factors are to make cities better places to be, then we can have better cities. We have to find the right people within city and regional and national government who are committed to making things happen and work with those key individuals. Yes, at the same time we do the institutional capacity building and the restructuring and modernization and the training and all of that, but what we need is champions. I think what we need are champions, and more than champions, change makers. Capacity development is absolutely essential and necessary to instituting these new guidelines. I think there's a basic level of technical competency that's required, but for far too long, engineers, architects, planners, economists have been relying on their own very elitist language. But there's a need to broaden that understanding now to those people who are making the decisions for the city. Against this backdrop of urban areas being centers of consumption, they're also centers of production. They produce the best universities, they produce culture and arts, and are also centers of economic growth, capital as well as intellectual growth. I think there's a need to balance what we understand by urban areas and take into consideration not only all of the negative aspects of what it means to be living in an ACP urban city, but equally what positive benefits cities in Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific can offer their inhabitants.